What's up, everybody? This episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast is brought to you by Off the Record. You know about Off the Record. We love Off the Record. They are the best. You know why? Because they stop the bad things from happening. You know what I'm saying? All of the bad things that can happen. Every bad thing that can happen while behind the wheel of your car. No, I'm just kidding. But sometimes you get pulled over and ticketed for things that are stupid. Not even true sometimes. You know what I've learned about cops? They make stuff up. They lie. They lie on the stand. They lie to you. They don't really have a good reason, to be honest. And Off the Record is here for you. They're your advocate. Sometimes you get pulled over and you go, I'll just plead guilty to this ticket. It'll just, I'll pay the fine. I'll go about my business. But that is stupid because it's not just the fine. It'll follow you around. It's the insurance, it's the court costs, it's all those extra fees. Off the Record is here. offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. They will fight any and all tickets from the small to the very big on your behalf. They will set you up with a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction in which you got that ticket. They'll go to court, they'll deal with the prosecutors, and they'll get those points off of your record. Their success rate is amazing. Off the Record is so good at what they do. You don't need to worry about it. They just handle it for you. It's superb. All you got to do is go to offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. 10% off all legal services with Off the Record. They will set you up. And, of course, Dylan Optics sunglasses, the only sunglasses I ever wear. They have been a sponsor for 13 years now of the Smoking Tire. Not only have they been a loyal sponsor, they make the best sunglasses around. Double polarized, folks. Double. 2 polarizers. It's better than 1. Plus, basically totally customizable. You choose your frame, your color, matte finish lens. You get a pair that you're not going to see on anybody else. I have never, ever, ever in 13 years wearing Dylan Optics sunglasses every day, I've never seen another person wearing the same glasses as me. Never. Even when it's Clapman, it's never been the same. He's got all the same glasses I've got because he gets hooked up too, and his don't even look like mine. He's right next to me. Dylan Optics is the best. Their glasses are amazingly high quality. The lenses are incredible. The colors are really cool. They're very different from any other glasses. They've got a Wayfarer styles, wraparound styles, aviator styles. They can even do prescriptions. They do it all. Go to thesmokingtire.com. Click on the Partners tab, and then you'll see the Dylan banner right under there. If you use that link, I'll send you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt with each pair of Dylan Optics sunglasses ordered. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. We were supposed to have author Jessie Singer on this week. Unfortunately, she had to cancel things that had nothing to do with us. Hopefully, we circle back with her at a later date. Do I sound good, Zach? My Yeti mic placed okay?
We'll see what the fans say about the audio.
For anyone who knows anything about the layout of my shop, Westside Collector Car Storage, and our studio here, you'll know that Zach and I are 20 feet from each other.
I'm in quarantine.
He's in the studio without COVID, but with something that the internet says might be contagious. And I'm on the other side of a wall in my office.
Yeah, it's like I'm the rhesus monkey, and I'm in I'm in the room, and you're Dennis.
Wasn't that that was like the COVID the COVID theme was like alone together, right? Wasn't that it?
That sounds like one of the marketing things that was pitched around.
And then we're just flipping it now. Now it's just together alone.
Mm-hmm. We're in our pods.
Just like, what was your amazing line for the Bentley GT video that went up this morning? It helps to have everything if you want it all.
Having everything is a big part of having it all.
Yeah, that's fucking great. That is such a Christopher Guest line. Like that line should be in like Best in Show or something.
That was a proud moment in that video.
Go watch our Bentley GT video. It's up right now. I guess we never actually really talked about it on the podcast, did we? Because we usually like to wait until the video goes up to
Correct, and we shot it,
cars.
a month ago or so.
I think it was more. I was looking back in my photos for the Instagram post, and I think it was in May we shot it. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I had a call with Bentley, and I had to be like, I'm sorry, I swear we made a video, like, I promise. And the dude was cool about it, but
I mean, it wasn't a brand new car when we got it, right? So
no, of course. Yeah. But like that engine is going out of production this year, and you definitely want to air the video while they're still making the car.
That's a good point. Yeah, we'd have to put an addendum at the end. Like, this car used to be available.
I mean, for the most part, we air videos in the order we make them, like for the most part, a give or take. But like, what happens especially in the summer, especially mid to late summer, is you get all these new cars for the next model year coming out. And so, we filmed the Bentley, and then after that, there was like 5 or 6 cars that were embargoes. And so you want to hit those embargo dates. And because the Bentley, among a couple of other cars, were just like regular production car press loans, they get bumped for the embargoes. And so the guy understood. I mean, he's in the industry. He understands, and he wasn't upset or anything. Not like we make videos in order to please the PR people, but if someone gives you a loan of a car and then they don't see a video for a couple months, you definitely want to make sure they know that this video does exist and is coming. Mm-hmm. It's one thing if you criticize the car. It's another you shouldn't get loans and then not create content. So,
correct.
But hot damn, what a car. God, I fucking love that thing. And I had stopped thinking about it for a little while because we were thinking about other videos and other cars. But just watching the cuts as you were putting them together, I was like, oh yeah, that actually is the best car ever made.
Yeah, that is the best amazing way to get around unless you need to go off-roading. I mean, it's rare that it is rare that I kind of gush about a car to friends because I tend to be, almost feel like it's safer to be cynical and rather than be too excited and then be wrong later. But with that car, it was really hard to find flaws. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are no flaws there were no intentional flaws. Like there was nothing about that car where they made a decision and I said, I believe that decision to be wrong. Like there were a couple of things that we criticized in the video. For instance, like the CarPlay froze once for me, and it phantom braked once because of an oversensitive ADAS system. But like those are errors that can happen. They're not. It's not like they made this choice and that choice made the car worse. There was none of those.
Right. I think we've had ADAS problems in other cars of varying price, and it's it's an annoying thing, and we always mention it, but it doesn't take away from like the dynamics of the car and what the car's intention is, and does the car do the job it was intended to do as well as it possibly can.
Right. And the thing about the Bentley GT is it's not, I mean, yes, there's the V8 version, which is a little cheaper and less powerful, and the W12 version, which this speed was. But other than the engine, it's the same car, right? It's not like there's RSQ8 Audi. You've got your A8, your Q8, excuse me, and then your SQ8, and then your RSQ8. So the top one builds on the lower one, right, with more performance and better materials and more features, right? But with the Bentley, there's no like base model, like you can even like
the Bentley Altima.
Right, like it's not an upgraded, and granted it's on Panamera architecture, so you're already starting at a pretty high price point, and almost nothing about it feels like Panamera other than if you had driven the first gen car, which was Volkswagen architecture, you could kind of feel that front heaviness, and now that's gone. But it's everything about the car can be enjoyed at low speed, high speed, stopped. Like someone in the Instagram comments this morning said, well, shouldn't I just get a 911 Turbo S and save $100,000? I mean, maybe if what you want is like a 9-second dragster, that handles and is also made very well and has great materials and stands on its own four wheels, totally. But a 911 Turbo S versus a Carrera S is the same car 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting in
and
a
the
light,
interior will feel basically the same. Like you can change the leather colors a little bit.
yeah,
You could get some, exclusive manufacturer things here and there, but you could do that in the Carrera as well. But yeah, if you just look around, it's going to feel like the person sitting next to you at the light that's in the Carrera.
yeah. As if you're using the difference in power, if you drag race a Carrera, you can see where your extra money's gone. But in a Bentley, if you're stopped, if you're in traffic, if you're cruising on the highway, you can appreciate that car even if you're not in it. If you're just standing in the driveway looking at it with a fucking beer in your hand, you can appreciate where your money has gone in that car. And we're talking about rarefied air. We're talking about $350,000 car. So I get it better be fucking awesome. But the fact is, I've driven other cars that are that expensive that disappoint in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a good example of something that's been brought up a lot in the last couple of weeks is how interiors separate the experience of a car. People have asked us with screens going into so many cars, is that not going to take away from their individuality? And the Bentley feels like nothing else. When you touch the buttons, when you sit in it, when you look around, I mean, there's so many shiny things, but then there's nice leather and there's nice metal. And Porsche, even if you get the highest quality fabric they offer, there is a limit to the parts that they will supply and how much they'll weigh and what they'll be made out of. And the Bentley just goes, we don't care what it weighs. These things will be metal. These things will turn all the leather in the world, and you can feel and see the difference.
Yeah, like Porsche charges extra money to make things thinner. The glass, the carpets, the door cards, the body panels. You can pay extra to get those things thinner. With a Bentley, you can pay extra to get them thicker.
Yeah, the double carpet, the double floor mat.
Double carpet, double glazed windows, extra thick, sumptuous leather, extra stitching, extra piping on the leather, extra quilting on the roof. It's opposite of I'm not shitting on Porsche. There's a reason that Porsche charges for less and Bentley charges for more. It's design philosophy. But I'm just saying that with Bentley's methodology as an everyday car or even as a weekend tourer, you can appreciate what that car has and does every second you're in it or around it. You don't need to be going fast to appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think
that's what makes it so great.
The question of, well, shouldn't I just get this cheaper thing? That's a question that gets asked across the scale from $20,000 cars all the way up to $2 million cars. Because they're like, well, if it's just fast transportation and all-wheel drive and turbos, then isn't this the same thing? It's like, well, then is a GTR the same thing as a 911 turbo? The GTR's price has climbed, I think, somewhat unfairly, where they're more neighbors. But for a while, the GTR was the cheaper option, and it looked cheaper inside, and it felt cheaper in several different ways. But, ultimately, all-wheel drive twin-turbo 6-cylinder car. They feel different. The experience is definitely different.
Yeah. It's just so fucking good, man. It's just so good. Like, yeah. It's like and people, I don't know what it's like to have enough money to blow $350,000 on a car like that. I mean, I have some expensive cars that are collectively worth more than that, but that's not the same as buying a brand new car for that type of money. But the people that I know who do have that money, I'm looking at you, Sirio and fucking Brotman, Sirio particularly, because he's got money and he's a hardcore enthusiast and he is a car dealer, so he drives the volume of cars that you and I drive. He also gets to drive, and he was the first person to comment on the Instagram post, and he was like, "You are right. That is the best car in the world, and once you've had one, you can't imagine anything being better."
It'd be a fun test that probably won't happen, but if someone out there in the magazine world can make it happen, S63 AMG e-performance versus Bentley GT speed, because they weigh the same. Power difference is significant, but I'm very curious it'd be so funny if the Bentley was like either even or only a few seconds behind on the track when the Mercedes has this, uncomfortable ride and all this extra torque.
Well, we could try it. That conversation I had with Bentley yesterday, we're going to get a flying spur speed in September. So that's the 4-door. So that would actually be the appropriate comparison. Maybe we could see if Mercedes wants to play.
Let's do that. Let's try to do that.
If they want to get us the S63, I think that could be a very interesting comparison. Also, they're sending us a GTC. So I got to give Zach a little crap because he mistakenly called the Bentley Continental GT in the video twice the GTC. Instead of the CGT, the GTC. Got a little dyslexic up in that bitch. But it's okay. It's a casual acronym error. But the GTC is actually just the convertible. So there's no point to making a whole other video with the convertible. It's the same car, top goes down. And the audience, I think, wants the most sporting version, which is still the coupe. But I wanted to drive the convertible.
Right, you like convertible,
I asked for one, and they said they would send us one. So we'll talk about it on the podcast, and I'll do a little Instagram bit with it. It doesn't justify video production, but... Folks, we got to take a quick break from the action for Game Time. Game Time's awesome. It's straight up, it's awesome. I wanted to buy some WNBA tickets for my wife's birthday, and I found them on Game Time, no problemo. I got the best seats, literally courtside seats, pretty last minute too, and Game Time really hooked it up. It was a superior buying experience. I was really, really into it. The app was easy. It was easy to see where on the court the seats were. They got all kinds of great deals, whether it's music, sports, comedy, theater, you name it, Game Time has got it. You don't have to worry about the idea of buying the tickets. You can just worry about the fun you're going to have at the event you're going to see. Game Time's got flash deals. They've got last-minute ticket sales. It's really easy to find the ticket for any kind of event in your area. They got the stage and court and field view, so you can see what your view is going to look like from where your tickets are. And they offer the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection. If you lose your job, your financial situation changes, you can actually get your money back from Game Time. It's the place for last-minute ticket deals, so you never have to plan for months in advance. They've got ticket deals right up until the day of the event for football, for baseball, basketball, etc., comedy, theater, you name it. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less money somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag your tickets for the game without stress on Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but just create an account and redeem code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So we'll talk about it on the podcast, and I'll do a little Instagram bit with it. It doesn't justify video production, but anyway, go watch
the
our video.
torsional rigidity, the difference.
You know, I did with the old car. I don't know about I haven't driven the convertible of this generation, but with the old car, the 03 to 15 or whatever, first-gen Continental GT, you absolutely could feel, when you did the triangle test, that's where you put your elbow on the door sill and your hand at the top of the corner of the windshield when you go over some bumps, if you can feel some jiggliness there, And there were some very expensive cars that I have driven that have done shockingly poorly at that test. First gen BMW 6 Series, even the M6 convertible, horrible, horrible rigidity in that department. The first gen Bentley GT, not horrible, better than the BMW, but only just.
I think chassis engineering has come a long way in 20 years because the differences used to be very obvious, and now you might be able to tell a little bit, but they've done such a good job with designing the car as a convertible from the beginning, and there's enough bracing and all these other things, or strengthening hard points that the difference is fairly negligible. And if you enjoy driving with the top down, for one, you don't really care about the torsional rigidity anyway, but also you're not actually sacrificing that much these days.
You don't care about the torsional rigidity, but I'll tell you what, if you spent that much money and you felt the jiggle over the bumps, if you were in tune with your car, you'd be annoyed. And I'm putting words
like
in people's mouth.
If you had a Bentley drop top?
Yeah, if you bought a brand new Bentley drop top in that year, in 04 or whatever, if it was me and I had that kind of money and I was a car person, I would notice.
You would.
I bet really?
I bet if there were Bentley owners that also do track days or have sporty cars, then they probably notice. But if someone just wants the nicest, most expensive thing to cruise in, then they're just like, this is, those people that are like, oh, wow, the screen flips around. That's great. Like they notice that thing first.
Sure.
That is the coolest.
And the car as a a 4-seat GT convertible at the high end, because it's got a really thick, 5-layer top. So when you put the top up, it's still very quiet and refined. And so if you're going to buy a convertible, the more expensive the car, the nicer it'll be with the top up. A Miata with the top up is loud and not great.
Yes.
A Bentley or a 911 with the top up is going to be much, much better. Anyway, I look forward to trying the new GTC Speed and the Flying Spur Speed. I think they're both going to be pretty rad. Back to our buddy who I just shouted out because he owns a Bentley GT. He actually has the convertible. And that's our buddy Pete Brotman, who is selling an unbelievable collection of race cars on Bring a Trailer through Rob Dietz Wob Cars. We went to go check them out when they were filming them at Willow Springs, getting the B-roll. And he's got Le Mans winners, Sebring winners, IMSA winners. There's a 935, there's a 934, there's RSRs, there's this SC Zach's got up on the screen right now that is just nasty looking, sort of like a tarmac prepped rally car.
It has 10 headlights. 10. Yeah. Wow. Looks awesome.
Yeah. Fucking dope. This 935, the Coke car. And then there's videos on each of these. These are high dollar cars, motorsport history. They all have a very interesting history. And they were out at Willow Springs capturing video content with the cars, and with our buddy Pat Long and our buddy Jeff Zwart. And so we were out there checking it out, and it was very exciting to hear them run, and it's really, really cool. We're proud of them. And if you go to Bring a Trailer Premium, you can see the videos of Pat Long lapping Willow Springs in these cars. And this guy is such a fucking boss. Pat can just hop in a dozen different vintage race cars and take one warm-up lap and then just send it. And that's amazing. So if anyone wants to buy some Porsche, this 934, you've got 76 934 that you've got up on the screen is incredibly cool. and it sounds awesome. We saw Pat driving this one
And the
on
livery
the track.
is one of the coolest. It's like a chalk drawing of a driver's body. Like you're looking at an X-ray through the door, and then of course the helmet is above the door sill. So what a fun idea.
Yeah.
Ooh, current bid $500,000. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I mean, most of these cars should be like over 500 grand.
Yeah,
Some of
winning.
them should be well over. This one, the class winning 934, should be probably in the twos, I'm guessing, because that is a 934 is an incredibly rare car to begin with, but a Le Mans class winner is a whole other jam. So yeah, shout out to him. Go check those out on Bring a Trailer. The photos and the videos are amazing, even if you don't got the scratch to take one home. Other things I wanted to talk about real quick. We teased last show that I was driving a Fisker Ocean. Without saying too much, I will say this. I gave it back. It was a early marketing car that, in my opinion, was not ready for scrutiny from someone like myself. And the Fisker people and I agreed that we would be better off when they had a customer level production car to send us, and they would send us another one. I had a few problems with the car, and we agreed that it was not really in anyone's benefit to make a video with it at this time. So we'll circle back with the Fisker Ocean when they have a car.
Do you know if your car was the same spec or one of the cars that were on their launch? Because I think their launch was like a week ago in Austria.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
In Austria? No, it was not. It was not in Austria. No, these are U.S. marketing cars. I don't know. I don't know when it was built, and I don't know. Well, they're built in Austria. They're built at Magnasteyr, so that might be why the launch was in Austria. But yeah, the car had some glitchiness, but I wanted to give them, as a brand new company, I think they were trying to get us a car at the same time as the reviews were coming out from that launch. But the fact is, the cars that were in America were not ready for review, and so benefit of the doubt on that one. And we'll come back to the Fisker Ocean. Quick announcement, I'm partnering with Brekkie Car Club, which you may have seen on Instagram. They're an organization owned by some young guys, really nice guys, who put on events in Southern California. Not hoity-toity, all income brackets, Hondas to Ferraris, multicultural, young, enthusiastic, cross-cultural stuff. And we are having an event at Westside Collector Car Storage South Bay on Saturday, September 30th. You can register cars to enter through Brekkie Car Club's Instagram. They will be handling all the registration, and I am just providing the facility. But you will be able to come and see our new shop in Los Angeles, in the South Bay, at WCCS Gardena. They're going to have food. They're going to have some cool sponsors and vendors. And yeah, if you want to come do that. Okay, what else do we have? We got some news. Porsche dropped the new 911 ST. Nissan dropped the new Nismo Z. Then there's also the new Land Cruiser. Where do you want to start, Zach?
Let's start with the Z.
Nismo Z. I am going on the launch for this, actually, at Sonoma in September. So I will actually get to drive this thing. It's got a little more power. Looks like about 20 more horsepower. It's got suspension upgrades, brake upgrades. That's good. The brakes got real soft on the standard Z when I was tracking it. Unfortunately, I do not understand why they are going automatic only. Do you understand why, Zach?
I don't get it. And I saw their PR response to the internet's ire and anger. And it's being, that's being reported on Road and Track and other places. And basically they were like, well, the crowd that buys the Nismo version is focused on lap times and paddle shifting is faster on the track. So we're going to sell that one first, and then maybe if there's a giant call for a manual, we could always change it because we have a manual transmission, on the shelf because it already works. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if the take rate on Nismos is so small that it's not worth it to them to offer both, or is the take rate on manual transmissions on the regular Z so small that they're like, fuck it, like, what's the point of even offering this if only 10 people buy the car? And they can't say that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
See, that's weird because I think it's convenient for Nissan to say that the people who are buying this car are focused on lap times. Whereas I believe, and totally without evidence, mind you, but I believe that the people who are going to buy a Nismo Z are focused on dynamics, sporty dynamics. And lap times would be a extension of sporty dynamics, but not, if you're focused on lap times, you're not going to buy a brand new sports car for $60,000.
I mean, some people do. Not many, but some people do.
But if you're really focused on lap times instead of overall dynamics and having a new car, I just feel like you're going to buy a fucking Z06 and be done with it. C6, Z06, and Hoosiers, and you're walking this thing.
No, but we've been to track days and we've seen, that year, new M4, new M3. Like, there are people that lease a high performance car and track it. I mean, there's all these GR86 stories. I don't think it's as uncommon as we think. I remember we went to Buttonwillow once, and as we arrived, we saw a baby blue F82 M3 coming off on a wrecker because someone had flipped it. They rolled it on the front straight.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And it was that was a brand new car back then. And then dynamically, I agree that a lot of people drawn to the Nismo are drawn to the dynamics, but to me, that's about steering feel, suspension setup, suspension tuning, alignment, stuff like that. The engagement and joy of shifting is a component of dynamic driving, but it is not all of it.
Maybe, well, my guess is within a few months you'll be able to buy almost all the parts that come on the Nismo from the dealer and put them on your manual car yourself, right? The exhaust, the brakes, the suspension, the wheels, all of that stuff, I think you'll be able to buy as Nismo performance parts at the dealer. So you could probably build your own manual car for only a little more money than it would cost you to buy one with an automatic from the factory.
True. I think another problem is that the Nismo gets 20 more horsepower and 34 more pound-feet of torque over the base, but it's 150 pounds heavier. So if you bought a manual transmission Nismo and then went to a track day, it's very possible that someone with a normal, a normal Z with good tires
would be faster than you.
Might be faster than you, because 150 pounds is, I mean, that's more weight added than the new ST has removed, and we'll get to that car in a moment. That's pretty significant. So they might have realized this.
Where does 150 pounds come from? That's a lot. That's a lot of weight put into
it is a
car.
lot. Someone said the transmission
body
is
kit,
significantly heavier, but
150 pounds?
I'll try to find it while you wax poetic. I mean, that's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah. It's surprising. That's a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't break it down. And look, it might drive awesome. I mean, the gearbox automatic has supposedly been reprogrammed to shift up to 50% faster. That would be nice. Hopefully, they're not just talking about upshifts. Hopefully, they're also talking about downshifts because upshift for show, downshift for dough is how she works there. But And I'm going to drive it. I'm going to drive it on the street. I'm going to drive it on the track. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to have a written piece for Road and Track. So there'll be lots of Nismo Z coverage. And I committed to it. And then one day later, Porsche sent out the invites to go to Italy to drive the 911 ST.
They did. They sure did. And you were booked already.
And I was already booked.
But if there's two things you don't like, it's Italy and a new high-performance Porsche.
A GT3
so
RS
I will
with a
take the
stick.
L for you.
So Zach's gonna go. Two things I hate. I hate Italian roads and culture. Three things I hate. And I hate GT3 RSs with manual transmissions.
Right.
Fuck!
So you're going to go drive
Fuck!
automatic. It's funny.
You know what? I have too many frequent flyer miles anyway.
You do. I mean, you went to Europe like 3 times in a month, so I'm going to stack up some more Delta stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, 911 ST. I knew about it about a week before the press release came out. We were discussing it in Germany. And it's what it sounds like. It's a GT3 RS touring, or it's more like the 911R for the 992 generation. It's got all this weight reduction, carbon panels. Mm-hmm. It's got the side vents from the GT3 RS, but it's got the front nose from the regular GT3, so you have a frunk. It's got no wing, and it's got this super lightweight flywheel, which actually might make it kind of tricky to drive unless it's got some kind of anti-stall technology, because when I drove the GT3 Touring with a stick, that was actually kind of tricky to drive. And this has an even lighter flywheel than that. So this thing is going to rev like a fucking liter bike.
Yeah, it's like a touring RS.
Yeah.
But
which is pretty rad. There's no reason to even have a press launch. They're all sold out already. It's what, 1,600 and something? How many?
They're making
1963.
Because
yeah, so
that
the
was
first year of the 911.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be awesome. I don't like the meatball on the side. I don't like the optional heritage graphics. I think the way to get
but that's optional.
The idea of getting a touring variant of a car, but with graphics all over it, is kind of dumb to me. But all right, it's optional, whatever. This one they have in the photo with the black with just the lettering, that's pretty cool.
That is very stuff.
It's going to be 300 grand, and then people are going to option them up to probably 400 grand. They're going to get the crazy leather. They're going to get all the dope colors. Someone please get one in frozen berry metallic.
Carbon fiber roll cage. I want to look up the weight.
That's going to be Europe only. They're not going to homologate that roll, which is for the best. I drove the GT3 RS with the carbon fiber roll cage, and it looked awesome, but it completely eliminated the usefulness of the shelf behind the seats.
Yeah.
You couldn't put anything back there.
And
you want to be able to throw
one at a time.
Yeah, you want to be able to throw some soft luggage back there. It's a useful storage space if you're touring. But you're going to have a good fucking time.
I'm going to have a great time. I'll try to paint it as a terrible picture for you so that you don't get jealous, but it's a fast
Maybe
car
that
in
could
Italy.
should that be the premise of the video that I kicked it over to you in order to go drive an automatic Nissan in San Francisco, and therefore you have to convince me that it's not good. We
could totally write the skit where like you put the phone down and you're like, Nissan just invited me to go to Sonoma to drive the new Nismo on the track and stuff, and I'm like, oh cool, and you're like they can only bring one person. I'm like, oh okay. You're like, sorry man,
yeah.
And then like you go back to writing
24 hours
rings,
later,
and it's like, hey, we have the ST thing, and you're like, I'm booked, but Zach, do you want to do that?
They only have room for one in Italy.
Right.
Shit. And the reason they chose it, they told me why they chose Italy. Andy Preuninger, he was like, we're like, why Italy? And he was basically said because
like,
there's no laws there.
Oh
like,
yeah.
No, he's like there's no laws. He's like you could do anything you want on the roads. Nobody gives a fuck. He's like it's great.
Yeah.
So,
so this car is almost 100 pounds lighter than the GT3 Touring, and some of that's from the powertrain and the clutch.
but the body panels too. The GT3
Right.
Touring has metal body panels. This is
Yeah, this is carbon,
fenders and
carbon
shit.
this, carbon that,
Yeah.
and thinner glass and all
Rad.
that stuff. But it's so weird that
I mean, this is like, yeah.
this is going, this is getting lighter. It's going in the correct direction, and the Nismo somehow gains.
Yeah, that's not
50% more of this. I don't know. Sorry, what were you going to say?
But this is like, well, last week we talked about the historical cars that I drove and that the specialness of that 80s club sport, which had weight pulled out of all kinds of places that only a factory could really do. And this is that. This is them doing that, where it doesn't have more power, but somehow it will be noticeably faster. It will when the engine feels unburdened, it's the same engine but with less to move around, less weight and less aero drag.
Yep.
In a straight line.
And no rear steer, which also
No rear
saves weight.
steer to save weight. Yeah. Which is actually interesting because every Porsche press car 992 I've driven has had rear steer. They put it in all the press cars because they want you to feel it. I should ask Frank for any 911 without rear steer if they have one, just
That'd
because
be cool.
so many people, it's probably the most, not the most, it's one of the most common Porsche questions I get. Do I need to get rear steer? And I have the same unhelpful answer, which is that I've never driven one without it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's very helpful,
and
it's fairly invisible, but I am curious to see what this feels like. I mean, U-turns will take a little bit more room, but honestly, like, can I feel the difference in dynamic driving? Because my brain goes, if I'm going to have a really aggressive car, I'd rather have a rear steering that's just fixed. So it's not another system I have to think about or worry about or learn to work with. But I've never driven any of the new 992s hard enough to, slid them or anything to where that's become an issue. So
yeah, well, here's another random thing. If you get rear steer, you have to get a lithium battery. Don't know why, but the rear steer also needs lithium battery, which just means you need a special battery tender if you're not going to be using the car at least once a week.
Yeah, so, we have to drive it pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, pay the cost to be the boss, but it's something to consider. You want to play? Here's a fun one. The Land Cruiser we can talk about later. I don't really give a shit about the Land Cruiser. It's not really our crowd, but it looks nice. Good for them. Vinny got me this 1966 issue of Road and Track, January 1966. And I think anyone who's ever read car magazines and has some old ones laying around, it's always a fun game to go back and see what people thought about cars. For instance, here's a report on the U.S. Grand Prix of that year, which Jim Clark won.
Wow.
Winner, Jim Clark. Sorry. Excuse me. Jim Clark did not win. Jim Clark started on pole, but he did not win. He retired. Oh, he had the fastest lap before retiring. Graham Hill won. But still, we're talking about some OG shit. But the most fun thing to talk about in these old magazines is the classifieds. So back in the day, the marketplace section of Road and Track or Car and Driver is where one would go to buy an enthusiast car or sell an enthusiast car. And because inflation is a thing, I've got an inflation calculator handy so that we can do today's money for some of these cars. Because in a recent show, we talked about, courtesy of one of our fans who made us a handy chart. It's in the show with Throttle House. Mm-hmm. What a bad idea it is to buy a car that is intended to be limited production, like a special edition Corvette, Camaro, or something like that, and then not drive it. What a terrible investment that is compared to inflation and compared to the stock market. Well, I haven't done the math compared to the stock market, but just by judging what some of these cars are worth today compared to what they would have sold for and inflation, we can find out that the opposite is true. Some of the cars, if you had bought them in the mid to late 60s, would and by the way, not preserved them.
Okay.
Bought them and driven them and used them for 40 or 50 years. How you'd be up. So, and this is fucking unbelievable. Some of these are truly unbelievable. This is one of the most amazing classes. If this Road and Track Marketplace, the list of cars on here reads like a Gooding Pebble Beach catalog right now. Okay, so here's some highlights. 1965 Ferrari 250 LM.
Okay.
Brand new, never raced. $17,500. So,
Okay.
$17,500 in 1966 for this car. Now, let's just also mention that when a Ferrari 250 LM comes to market today, mileage is not only does it not matter, it's never even mentioned. It doesn't matter. This car is so rare and important that mileage doesn't matter fucking at all. In fact, the harder and the more miles it has on it is probably better for history, right? So that is 165 grand in today's money. This car is probably worth $10 million. So you would have smoked inflation, and possibly smoked the stock market as well.
So I pulled up a pretty rudimentary investment calculator, but basically I punched in 58 years, which is about how long it's been, $17,500, return rate 5%, which is very conservative for annual return on the stock market. But I'm just making my own index, basically. Compound annually, no additional contribution. You would have it would have gone from $17,500 to $296,000. So a strong return, but you would have gotten destroyed by the Ferrari.
Destroyed. Right below that is a pair of short wheelbase California Spiders. 2. $6,000 for a California Spider, $9,500 for the other one, because the other one has Barani wheels, aluminum body, limited slip diff, one of 3 made, $9,500. So $9,500?
Well, quick correction. I forgot about inflation. So inflation, $17,500 from 1965 would now be worth 170 grand. So if you made 296, then you would have made 120 grand. So how much is this? 9,500.
Yeah.
And same year, 65, right?
1966.
1966.
Yeah. So inflation is $90,000. That car today, in today's money, is $90,000. A Ferrari, aluminum-bodied, short wheelbase Ferrari California is probably $15 million.
Yeah, and the stock market, the 5% return in that time would have only given you 160 grand.
Right.
So,
how about this one? 1958 Ferrari 250 GT. Short wheelbase. $2,500.
what?
Forced to sell, it says in the ad.
For reference, adjusted for inflation, that is someone selling that car today for only $26,000, which is like new Altima money.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. This is before these cars were collectible, when this car was not, the idea of investing in cars as collector's items had not happened yet. So that would be 23 grand today. Car's probably worth 2 to 3 million, maybe more, right? Let's keep it going. Here's a good one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Okay, can you see this?
It's very grainy.
My black line.
Okay,
it's grainy, but just trust me, they're here. 8 in a row. Mercedes Gullwings. 8 of them in one page of a fucking classified.
Jeez.
I haven't seen 8 gull wings for sale in one place ever. We'll go with, okay, here's the prices. $59.50, $46.50, $4,500, $4,700, $4,300, $5,300. Call to ask. Let's see what's the best one. Go. This one has Rudge wheels, Rudge magnesium wheels, high performance cam. Okay, that's the one.
Okay.
$5,200 for in 1966.
All right. So 50.
This is a car that would sell for 1.1 to 1.4 million today.
Well, that's 50 grand in today's money. So it's obviously being sold for a huge bargain.
Yeah.
You know, but that means back then that was asking a lot of money for something that was an old, you know, race car. So
yeah.
And let's see, 50, 200. That's wow, it's so cheap.
It's crazy cheap, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's so small. Like if you invested that again, for any accounting nerds like listening, I know this is not that accurate, but the investment calculator that only returns you 88 grand or $82,000 profit. So
right. Then I mean, so you know, and that's you know, they're all kind of all these gull wings are kind of in the same range. The most expensive one is $59.50. It's a roadster with a hard top. So whatever. Then you've got a whole bunch of Porsches, lots of speedsters, lots of 356s. The highlight of the Porsches is a 904 coupe, latest specifications, dual Le Mans exhaust, Le Mans cams, American mag wheels, Le Mans disc brakes, won first overall Bridgehampton 500, won first 2-liter GT Watkins Glen, $6,200. That's pretty amazing. So $6,200 in today's money is 58 grand. So that'll get you a BMW 240i X-Drive.
Jeez, that's crazy.
In today's money for a class winner Porsche 904, easily worth $3 million right now with a racing history. Mileage, irrelevant. Condition, irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that incredible?
And I think what we learned on the Throttle House show was, sadly, there were a lot of cars that people thought were going to be worth a ton of money. A lot of them were American cars, like, you know, whatever, Indy Edition Corvette, things like that, that just never hit the big worldwide collector market. And so that's why the great sadness of them not driving these cars is you didn't get to enjoy it because you always thought it was going to be your lottery ticket retirement fund. And then very sadly, it's not at all. So,
yeah,
you know, unless you are one of the, and even now, like, you could buy a rare Ferrari today, but it's weird because there's so many, like, you know, rare special edition supercars and hypercars that we don't know which ones will actually still be special in 50 years.
Right. There's no, I don't know if there's consumer advice for today with this other than miles are cheap if the car is great. You know, if you buy a great car, then it's not worth it. It's more worth it to buy a great car and put miles on it and get enjoyment out of it. And over the long term, you'll get that value back versus buying something that is a special edition version of an otherwise common car and then preserving it for something.
Right.
Like only two more in here. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what Doug paid for his Ford GT? Like, do you recall ballpark?
I do, but I don't want to say.
Oh, okay. I only brought that up because it has a lot of miles on it, and he's putting miles on it.
Yeah, so I know who he bought that car from is Carl Brower. That was Carl's car, and he writes about cars. He's an automotive journalist who bought that car new and proceeded to put a ton of miles, put 28,000 miles on it in 10 years. And by the way, still sold it to Doug for more than the MSRP of the car.
Exactly. That was my point.
Yeah. I don't want to say exactly what it was.
That's fine.
But the MSRP of that car was 149 grand, and Doug definitely paid more than 149 grand for that car.
Yeah, if the car is good enough, as you've said, the miles don't matter. And that's an example of that.
Yeah. Two more on the list. Oh wait. Oh wow! Holy shit! Did I miss one? Okay, well, I have two very affordable ones, and then one on the next page that I missed, okay, that is worth circling back on. 1953 Seata. Do you know what a Seata is? Siata?
No.
It's a very beautiful car. The only one I've ever seen was at the Peterson Museum.
Oh, it looks
Only
like it
200
looks like an
made.
AC Cobra. Looks a lot like an AC Cobra.
But 10 years before an AC Cobra.
Right.
53.
Like, they should sue AC, possibly.
Right. Yeah. $1,150. And this one's got a hard top on it. Very beautiful car.
Mm-hmm.
And $1,150, which is $10,829 in today's money. This car is probably worth $300,000 to $400,000.
Wow.
So even though it's not a Ferrari or a Porsche or, it's a car that was rare and beautiful and as such extremely collectible, even though it was undervalued at the time. And then we go even, how about older? 1930 Talbot with coachwork by Duroc, 3-liter engine, pre-selector gearbox, $1,750. Talbot is probably worth $300,000 to $400,000 and would be a Pebble Beach contender these days. And then the one I missed. There's actually two I've missed. But the one that's really worth discussing, 1964 Ferrari GTO. Won the 24 Hours of Daytona, driven by Phil Hill. Mint condition, mechanically perfect.
What?
Registered in California, chrome wheels, won its class at the Hillsborough Concours, weighs 2,250 pounds.
Whoa.
I like that they put the weight in there. 5-speed synchro box, $12,500, financing available. So 12.5 for the GTO is $117,000 in today's money.
Yeah, I'm just going to put this screen share up and you'll just laugh.
$45 million valuation today's money.
$45 million.
Mileage, not fucking relevant.
And now, for people looking at the screen, like, this is a 62 by Scaglietti. It's like a little different, but I'm sure that the one you just mentioned, which won a famous race driven by a famous person, is probably still worth $30 million.
I mean, any Ferrari GTO is worth any Ferrari GTO is worth 30 to 50, possibly more.
And
one that Phil Hill won a endurance race in is going to be right at the top of that heap. I don't have a VIN number, but you could probably get a picture of it. Phil Hill and Pedro Rodriguez drove it in 1964.
Wait,
it's got to be still around.
I think it actually was the one show.
Was that it? Every GTO is still around. Oh,
This one
look at that.
Was
is that it?
Ex-Phil Hill Ferrari. It sold for 48.
Sold for $48 million. Yeah, there you go. He probably drove more than one car, but let's just say that's it. Does it say Daytona on there? 1964. Having won at Daytona and Sebring. Yeah, there you go. Or we don't know.
No, this is a different car. They were saying that they won at Daytona, but this is a different car.
Okay. Well, either way, if it's 42 or 47 or 50 or, either way, any one of the cars in this magazine, you would have not only smoked inflation, but you would have smoked the stock market, even if you drove the car regularly for 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, these are, the rare blue chip race cars. And
yeah,
it
but
will
dude,
be
there's
interesting.
eight Gullwings for sale in this magazine. It probably didn't seem rare.
No, I know it
Probably
didn't.
seemed
And
like
I mean,
your
honestly,
pick,
to go back to the Pete Brotman thing, like, right, it'll be interesting to see which race cars 50 years from now, if any, like, get this kind of acclaim and this kind of value, because we don't know.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. Switching
All right,
gears
let's do
before
a
we
few
get,
questions.
well, before we
Go
do,
ahead.
there's something happening in Australia that you might like, but then is not exactly as you've wanted it to happen. So Australia is going to require a special license for ultra high-powered vehicles starting in 2024. And they define a high-powered vehicle as any car that has a power-to-weight ratio of at least 276 kilowatts per ton. So, for example, a Lamborghini Huracan has 292 kilowatts per ton, whereas an M3 has just 222. So, anything a little bit faster than a new M3 would fall under this what they're calling a U license. And additionally, so if you own one of these cars now, or you want to buy one in 2024 when the law goes into effect, you're going to have to take this course, even if you already have the car. And then if it's discovered that you have ever disabled, not ever, if you get pulled over or get in trouble and they discover that you turned off traction control, ABS, or anything like that, you can get fined up to $5,000, which all of this is interesting. The downside is right now the training, they say, is just an online course. It's not driver training, which is what we've talked about as a special license that allows us to drive faster and, and it also teach people
This is the
skills to handle
opposite
these
of
cars.
that. This is the opposite of that. Yeah. What we discussed was taking extra training on the ground in order to get a special license that would allow you to drive faster.
Right.
What this is a special restriction preventing you from driving faster despite your car's ability to safely do so. Yeah, this is the opposite.
Right.
This is
The
not
only,
the
like,
right-
when this course comes out, if anyone in Australia, well, there'll be articles, like, I want to see what the course is.
Yeah.
And see how thorough it is or what it's about, or if it's just like, it takes 5 minutes, you click through some things, and then you give them money. I mean, that would be a waste of this. Like, I'm trying to be optimistic. Like, how much can you teach someone about a very powerful car and how to deal with it, through writing? And we've read books like Speed Secrets and other driving books. Like, you can learn something, but I don't know how thorough this is going to be. Or, will it actually make people safer, or is it just a box to tick and the government gets to charge you money?
I mean, it's got to be related to Australia's like anti-hooning thing, right? They're trying to restrict driving dangerously, which, okay, I understand that. But this seems like the wrong way to do it, and it also seems really full of holes. Like, for instance, one might argue, in fact, I could make a pretty strong argument, that driving quickly in a Huracan is safer than driving quickly in an M3. Furthermore, I could make an argument that that while you might need a special license to buy a Huracan and you wouldn't need an M3, and we're just using those examples from this article. Well, what if you fucking tune your M3 to make 1,000 horsepower?
Right.
They're gonna follow up on that? And then it's like, how do they prove if you get pulled over and you turn traction control on before the cop comes and looks in your window? How do they prove it was off in a way that is legally sound? Now, I'm not entirely sure what type of rights you have as a citizen in Australia. Maybe you don't have a right to not have a cop scan your car on the side of the road. I don't
Right.
know. But
If they can just plug into your OBD2 or something like that.
it also might only be the kind of thing that's enforced if you get into an accident. If you turn off traction control and you have an accident and you damage something, and now it's like a punitive thing.
Yeah, Mustang cars and coffee type situation.
Sure.
Or if you get caught doing a burnout, they can go, "Oh, did you turn off traction control?" And you say no, and then they can scan something. It says that this law was introduced after a 15-year-old girl was hit and killed by a Lamborghini Huracan, and that was in 2019. So that was.
That seems like
was the impetus.
Seems like arbitrarily punitive against the Lamborghini Huracan, which is a fast car, but very stable and controllable. And in that particular case, I might put a little more blame on the driver than the car. Just saying.
Well, I don't know what conversations came out of that. So maybe if the driver, total hypothetical, but if the driver was like, "Oh, I thought I could stop in time," or "I didn't realize that I was not going to make it around that corner," or something like that, they go, "Okay, so the driver didn't know how to handle their high-performance vehicle." Then if more people are buying these cars, and cars are getting faster to a degree that we've all talked about is alarming, then they go, "Okay, well, maybe we need some additional instruction or education to deal with these super high-performance cars."
Sure. I'm pro training.
I'm pro training. That's why I applaud when car companies, it's probably built in your price, but when you buy some cars, they go, "You get a free or 2 free days at our driving school." Like, that's a great idea. And if your car comes with it, you should absolutely do it.
But you shouldn't need the additional training to drive the car within the speed limits. You know what I mean? Like, what they're basically doing is admitting that that people are not obeying their speed limits. And what does additional training in terms of an online course do for you? Yeah, like if the special license only restricts you based on horsepower or power to weight, but power to weight shouldn't matter if you're staying within the limits, the speed limits. So are they just giving up on speed limits then? What, like...
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I if I was part of this group who made this up, I would say that you are going about this very, very wrong.
It'll be funny to see how this affects the average Cortina burnout contest owner who's got 3,000 horsepower in a car that came with 62. And they're just like, "Nah, I don't need the license for that. This thing's just a little full pot,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the Patreon. Yeah, I think that's probably, yeah. So let's go to the Patreon. Of course, we've got some questions from the people. We can do about 30 minutes of those. And yeah.
All right. All Odds ZT says, "What do you both predict will come of the current auto loan situation with insanely high rates and monthly payments over long terms for dealers and OEMs?"
Were you there in 2008? Because I was. Like, I think the difference is people could lose their car without losing their home.
Right.
Like if you lose your car, it's bad, but like you might be able to buy like a cheap shit box and your life won't get better, but you're not like homeless, and it's not, you probably don't have your entire like net worth tied up in a car like so many people did in their homes. And I don't think I think people are making bad decisions in terms of rolling over equity into newer cars and getting themselves into debt, but it's not like people it's not like they're giving out loans that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to people that shouldn't have had them in the first place.
Right.
Right.
And they can repossess your car but you know, it's bad, but it's not as large a consequence as if your house gets repossessed. So people will always give up their car instead of their home if they're forced to have that option. But I think I think it's a really risky, weird time for a lot of folks that are overextending themselves in a number of different ways. And you know, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way for the dealers and OEMs to always win, because if they repo the car, they can resell it. You know, but if there's a huge economic recession or collapse, then who do you sell that repossessed car to if there's no one to buy it? And then you would have problems on the dealer side.
I think there will be some kind of a crash, but the landing will be a little softer than all of a sudden finding a whole bunch of people without homes.
Yes,
you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
Cruising USA says, "What is our favorite Dylan Optics model?"
I appreciate the question.
Right.
I don't really have a favorite. I don't really have a favorite. It depends on like what I'm wearing and what I'm doing. I've got these, which I think are called the Eloy, and there's some good like aviator style joints that I like because they're good for people who have a bigger head. And then I've got my sort of casual Wayfarer style. I don't remember what the name of them are.
I wear the Reed a lot, which I like.
Yeah.
Kind of a block ear shape, but not full square like I had back in 2003.
I'm fortunate enough that as a sponsor, I've got like 10 pairs of them, so I can change what I'm wearing based on the occasion. I don't need to have a favorite. If I was gonna just have one, though, I think one of the Wayfarer styles. I don't remember what this one's called. It looks like the Reed, but it has the thinner side pieces than the Reed. Either these in the black with a blue or silver lens is probably the most versatile. Zach.
Okay. What is the Bad Gardener? What is the arrangement that allows you to blast through the canyons? Cops just don't patrol early mornings. And then side question: have I heard correctly that England has a lot of de-restricted side roads?
Well, there's no arrangement. If they catch us, they catch us. It's just wherever you are in the country or the world, if you want to go have fun on a good road, it's important to choose your time and place wisely. Learn the area and go drive in a place where people aren't, at a time when people aren't there, and in a manner where if somebody saw you, their reaction won't be, fuck this guy, I'm calling the cops. Be invisible. Be polite. Obey the rules. And drive in a manner that even if someone saw a video of you driving and you were going technically over the speed limit, that you were not driving in such an egregious manner that someone goes, fuck this guy, he's putting people at risk.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all there is to it.
And then the England thing, I don't believe that's true. We drove a lot of B roads and A roads in England, and there were places where we would see a sign that we had to look up online, but it basically means national speed limit here. So on a road that the speed limit might go down to 25 miles per hour in a town, and then as you leave the town, this sign pops up. It's a circle with like a black slash through it, and it's just saying national speed limit. So similar to here, where if you're on a 2-lane road in America and there's not a otherwise indicated speed limit's usually 55 if it's like a rural highway. So I don't think there's any. No,
I don't think there's anything
an unrestricted
official
area that people would stop going to the Autobahn to test cars, and they would go to England.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely rural areas where people aren't around, just like in all kinds of states in America and other countries. If you just go somewhere where there's no people, then no one really gives a shit what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't put people at risk. Don't drive in a way where locals or neighbors or anyone goes, fuck this dude, I'm calling the cops. Be invisible.
Mm-hmm. Ivan Capote, hey guys, I'm wondering about all these insane regulations that the car industry goes through. Do car manufacturers have little power in Congress? We have seen other corporations in different industries getting away with insane things and violations that would be a crime elsewhere. Why is the car industry oppressed so much?
I disagree with the premise of the question. The car industry has massive lobbying power and regularly gets away with all kinds of fucking terrible things and are not subject to arbitrary regulations most of the time. I disagree with the premise of the question, right? I mean, what insane regulation has car companies been make your cars safer, make your cars more fuel efficient, make your cars fit in a parking space that is a standard size? I don't see anything unreasonable about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that Ivan is just seeing cylinder counts shrinking and MPG going up and whatever, and feeling like the car companies are losing. But they have.
I would disagree.
I mean,
the turbocharging has led to the fastest fucking cars being sold that have ever been sold. Cars are so fast now. Australia is freaking out.
Yeah, direct injection, same thing. Huge power gain, huge efficiency gain. I mean, for the last, I'd say 20 years, it's been really visible. The pressure put upon car companies has made the performance of cars accelerate, no pun intended, like increase a huge amount. You know, they had to find ways to make more, get more miles per gallon of gasoline, which led to direct injection, which all of a sudden went, oh, wow, we can crank compression and make way more power, and especially with turbochargers. So that's been really beneficial.
Also, go read Unsafe at Any Speed. The shit that American car companies got away with for so long in terms of actively subverting environmental and safety regulations, which led to a lot of people dying or being injured. They should have been subject to more restrictions long before they were. So yeah, I fundamentally disagree with the premise of the question.
All right. We kind of covered the Nissan Z. Oops, sorry. All right. Aiden Squires asks, assuming that one day Mercedes will stop producing V12s and transition to hybrid V8s and the like, where will Pagani get their engines? Do you think they'll have to switch to small engines, or just keep V12s from someone else?
So Pagani doesn't get their engines from Mercedes' current V12. Well, that's actually maybe not true. I don't know where they may be sourcing engines directly from Mercedes for their newest car. When how they keep building Zondas, it's always the last one, and then they build 2 more a year. Mm-hmm. They are literally scavenging older V12s to take them apart and build those.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's based on the older V12 architecture.
Right.
My guess is Pagani will have plenty of heads up for when Mercedes is ending production of that engine, and Mercedes will sell Pagani 5 or 10 years worth of engines, which is something they'll be prepared for, and that'll be that.
Yeah, that's a good guess. And if there's a small manufacturer clause in the EU laws, then Pagani would most certainly pass that scrutiny, because I don't think they sell that many cars per year. So they could hopefully keep making V12 powered things for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Crandy says, should 991.1 GT3s be considered a value considering how much cheaper they are than .2s?
I mean, yeah, they're a good value. They're still very fast. They still are fun to drive. I think they have a blemish on their record because there was that engine recall where they had to replace all the engines in them. But they're still pretty nice cars. So yeah, I mean, if you want something to drive and not necessarily to collect, then yeah, great driver's car.
Alejandro is taking a trip from San Francisco to Big Sur back on Highway 1. Wants to know what the best convertible to rent from Turo or elsewhere or another company would be. Not looking for speed performance. Just wants to be able to
where and back?
Taking Highway 1 from SF to Big Sur back up.
Oh.
the monorail trip,
okay.
as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, you could rent a Bentley Continental.
Yeah.
You could do that. That's pretty nice.
I mean, the main question is, do you need 2 seats or 4?
Right.
If you need 4 seats, that will inform your decision.
And how much luggage do you
lot.
need? Because if it's like a hardtop convertible, a lot of those, they encroach on the trunk space a lot. So pretty limited. Like, Ferrari California is cool until you put the top down and you can only fit a backpack in there.
Yeah. I mean, anything that handles well, that's a windy road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need a ton of power, but you want good handling. So an M4 would be great. A 911 convertible would be great. A Boxster if you only need, the 2 seats because you still got 2 trunks there. Lexus LC500 convertible, if such a thing exists on Turo.
That would be a nice one.
That would be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean anything that has good handling, good braking, and is comfortable and holds your shit.
Luke
I wouldn't go
Talley-
for a Mustang or Camaro convertible, is what I'm saying. I would go for something with handling as a little more of a priority.
I agree with
but
that.
like 911 Carreras on Turo are like shockingly cheap. They're like 150 to 200 a day for a less than 3 or 4 years old 911 Carrera, which I think would be great.
Yeah. Luke Talion says, Matt, what's your take on steel and gold watches? I'm close to purchasing Tudor's Black Bay Heritage Root Beer GMT and wondering how the gold-capped parts would age over time as a high-wear everyday watch.
I don't fuck with two-tone. Two-tone's kind of like trashy to me. How will it wear? Not as well as the steel. I mean, gold... One of the things about gold watches that's like a downside, it's like when people buy a gold version of a, quote, tool watch, it takes it out of that tool watch territory because gold scratches much easier than steel. So if you're going to knock it into stuff, it's going to show a lot more wear. But I don't love two-tone watches. So especially I don't like precious metals on watches that are not like the pinnacle of watchmaking. Like I wouldn't buy, it's like buying like a super optioned up version of like a lower, like imagine buying a Macan T with a 2-liter engine and like $30,000 in PTS and exclusive options. That's what that is. You're not going to get the value versus buying the higher end car with like less flair on it. Get what you want. Don't let me talk you out of it. But that's why I don't fuck with. That's why I don't fuck with two-tone, and that's why I don't fuck with the lower. I mean, I like Tudor. Don't get me wrong, but like most people go from a Tudor to a Rolex when they can afford it. Like I'd rather get the steel Rolex than the Tudor two-tone or gold. Just me.
All right. Thomas Wilkes, anything you recommend I do to a 2012 Grand Sport Corvette I just bought, besides driving it? It's a manual, 3LT, has 32,000 miles, needs a wheel bearing and tires, but otherwise it's fine.
Well, I would do those things.
That car, the Grand Sport, handles great.
Yeah, they're nice. They're really nice.
Unless... I don't know, unless you want to spend money and do a coilover conversion and get the adjustability that you can get with that, which is what we did with ours. But I mean, the Grand Sport is a really fun car out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, 2012, it's not that you need to upgrade, but like I would do a full service. Like I'd make sure your bushings are really good. I'd make sure your shocks are in really good shape. That car will have mag ride, so I'd make sure that I would have like the majorist of services done, because even with 32,000 miles, there's just some stuff that'll be a little more tired. So I would just make that car, great brake pads, maybe some stainless steel brake lines, great tires. Don't just get whatever tires, get really good tires and make sure it's in as good of a shape as it can be, because those cars from the factory were excellent. Didn't need anything.
All right. Oh, yeah. Levi Betts, he heard us talking about the AMC Gremlin with the Levi's interior. Apparently, AMC also made a Gucci edition Hornet.
That's awesome. If there's two things that I think go together, it's AMC and Gucci.
Gucci reimagined Hornet. Here we go.
Gucci reimagined? Oh, God. That says Gucci all over it. What a fucking sad-looking car that is. That's terrible. Look at the badging. Oh, my God.
The badge is weird. And then the interior.
Oh, the seats are kind of awesome, though. I mean, the seats themselves are garbage. No, the color combo is awesome.
The color combo reminds me of, you remember in like grade school, there'd be candy canes at Christmas time. And there were the good ones, which are normal. And then there'd be the ones that were like green and red that I thought were normal. And they had a weird flavor. That's what this looks like.
Yeah. There was the white and red and then the green and red. Yeah.
Gucci. All right.
That's really funny.
Andy in Colorado says, based on your recent trips, do you know anything about what's up with the EV Macan delay? Is there something else going on beyond software glitches that have been reported in the news? Do you have any insight?
I saw EV Macan's testing when I was in Germany, and I asked if one would be ready to purchase by April or May of next year when it comes time to replace the Ford, and they said it would not. So I didn't ask why that was. I just assumed it's still in development. But I think that 7-seater EV is coming first. There's been renderings of it that were released, and
from Porsche.
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't really interest me.
All right. 404 user not found asks, what would we consider to be a, quote, fast car nowadays? When I was younger, 500 horsepower was the end of the world. Nowadays, there's multiple thousand horsepower family sedans that can do 0 to 60 in, high 2s, low 3s.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between what, as we just talked about earlier, with turbocharging and all these technologies, not to mention EV technology, the increase in performance that's accessible from otherwise pretty regular cars is insane. So, like, to me, you don't need a huge amount of power to have a fast car if that power is delivered pretty quickly. Slight if you've got a relatively light car with 350 horsepower, it could feel very fast. I mean, we drove that BMW M240 I'd mentioned earlier. That's a fucking fast car. You drive my Ford Mach-E, which has the regular rear-wheel drive, non-special powertrain, is 360 horsepower and I think 420 torque or something. And it weighs 800 pounds or something like that. Feels like a fast car. You put your foot in the floor, like that thing's fucking going, So anything that'll do 0 to 60 and in under 5 seconds, that feels like a fast car to me. There's only so fast I ever need to go. We review these really fast cars, and yeah, it's cool to brag that your car can do this and that, but as I said in the Bentley GT video, which I hope you guys will go watch, the Bentley GT W12 versus the Bentley GT V8, the 12 makes more horsepower and more torque and accelerates to 60 a half a second faster on the floorboard. Well, how often are you using floorboard levels of power in a car that makes 500 to 650 horsepower? Like, so rarely are you using that much power. So so many cars are really fast now, and a lot of them are like totally normal. Model 3, Hyundai,
I also think there's
Ioniq
a difference
5,
between
whatever.
experiencing the fast car and reading about the fast car. Like, for most people, unless you have a job like ours or you own a really, really, 700, 800 horsepower car, if you put a normal person in a 500 horsepower car and you floor it from a stop, they're going to go, whoa, this is fast, and you will be traveling at a high rate of speed. It's only when you spend your life looking at car news, and then your brain just starts doing the comparison of, oh, this makes 1,000, or the Lucid makes 1,300, or this, Hoonigan project car makes 2,000 horsepower. That you start going, oh, 500 is not fast because I saw this other thing on the internet that had a larger number. But it doesn't mean you're experiencing it. So I think, to me, a 500 horsepower car is still a fast car. And above that, things start to just get ridiculous.
Yes, totally agreed.
Nate M says, caveat, this might be out of our wheelhouse, he says, but I need
Stick to cars.
No, it's cars, but he says he needs a mid to full-size SUV with legitimate 4x4 capabilities that fits 2 car seats, max budget $35,000. Is there anything worth considering besides a Lexus GX or a high-mileage Land Cruiser? 4Runner prices seem ridiculous considering their terrible interior and the engine, which I totally agree with. Jeep Grand Cherokee, man. They make so many trim levels of different niceness, 4x4 capability. They're really nice to drive. They look nice inside and out, in my opinion. And they don't have the Toyota tax that the 4Runner has. They're different. Like, the 4Runner is the 4Runner, but a good Jeep will go a lot of places.
Yeah, I think Jeep Grand Cherokee is a great answer. I also think if you're a little bolder, Land Rover LR4. The LR4 is a really nice product. Obviously, it'll be more expensive to maintain probably than a Jeep, but it is a very nice product. Yeah, otherwise Land Cruisers and Lexus GXs are nice as well, and you could probably get, a decent version of either for that kind of money. But yeah, a Jeep Grand Cherokee is an excellent call.
I think, who did we talk to recently that they had an LR3 or 4 that had been pretty worry-free, which surprised everybody. But
Scotto has one,
that's right.
And Matt Crook has one also.
That's right. Yeah, I think Crook said his has not actually had many problems.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about that. DWBF11, what a beautiful name. How do you guys handle long international trips followed immediately by car-related activities like drives or press launches? Is it just lots of caffeine?
Drugs.
Or some other magic?
It's drugs. It's rarely followed immediately by. Usually if I'm going to Europe, I leave in the evening from Los Angeles, arrive mid-morning the next day, and then have a transit or whatever to the hotel, which is usually nowhere near the airport. So I arrive to the hotel sometime after lunch. We then have some downtime, and then there's a dinner, you sleep, and then you drive the following day. That's why those trips are so long, because it's effectively 2 full days to get there, 1 day of driving, and then 2 days to get home, but because of the time change, it's only 1 day.
Yeah, there's always because they know you're going to land and you need to rest and try to reset a bit before you drive the next day. Otherwise, it'd be really challenging. And even with those sleeping pills help to kind of knock you out so that you put your body to sleep at night, even if your brain is still on West Coast time.
Right.
But even so, I found the Lotus trip was 2 days of driving. And the first day, my brain was a lot fuzzier and just not as sharp as it was the second day, because I was just jet lagged and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and all that stuff. So caffeine helps.
Well, I told the story about my caffeine panic attack on
did.
the last podcast that happened at Porsche. So it's not a perfect system for sure.
No, because you can drink too much caffeine where your body knows you're drinking more caffeine, but your brain stops registering its effects. So all of a sudden you have heart palpitations, but your brain's not working any faster, and then you're just having a bad
and
day.
it happens later. I mean, I had a caffeine panic attack 5 hours after my last cup of coffee, not right after, so yeah. Trying to sleep on that flight, and the gym, it makes a huge difference when I get to that first day, get to the hotel, drop my shit straight to the gym. That is a great reset for both waking up for the remainder of that day, and also like burning off caffeine and extra energy. So it really helps if wherever they've got us going has a gym in the hotel.
True. Rich
But it
B.
beats the shit out of you. Long story short, it beats the shit out of
It's
you.
it's
And
hard.
it's
Yeah.
not great. Yeah.
It's very rare that I nail it perfectly, and I'm like, oh, I didn't feel tired at this end or this end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rich B says he hasn't worn a watch in 20 years, but he's getting the itch. Wants to spend $600 to $1,000 on something mechanical. What do you suggest?
Seiko diver. That's the way to start. That's the gateway drug of watches. Start with a Seiko diver.
Augie Panino says, what are our thoughts?
Actually, if that person's a patron, they should just buy my limited release Notice watch when it comes out this week.
Oh, someone in Australia asked, is there a specific time you're going to announce the sale goes up? Because, like, do they need to stay up all night, or?
No, you don't need to stay up all night. It's not going to sell out in 5 minutes, but it will sell out on the first day probably. So I don't know yet. I'm meeting with those guys next week to discuss the exact details of the launch. I will give a heads up. What we'll probably do is we'll do a post on Patreon saying when the time will be, and then we'll do another post with the actual link. But I hadn't thought about that until right now, but we'll do it for you.
Perfect. Delete that question. Augie Panino has a 2023 XC60 and wants to know what our thoughts are on summer tires. It came with P0s. Lives in Santa Cruz, which is fine, but he wants to do some winter trips to the Sierras. So, should he A, swap out the high-performance summers for an all-season, or B, buy a set of winter tires and then keep the OEM wheels and just swap back and forth as needed?
Depends how often you're going to go to the Sierras. You know, I've driven to Mammoth a few times, and sometimes it's been really snowy, and having snow tires on the car I was driving made a really big difference. Mm-hmm. So if you've got space for an extra set of wheels and tires, and you can swap them out every 6 months, or if you are for a trip, if you've got the hour to swap them out, like, that's great. I mean, summers and winters is certainly better than all seasons. On the other hand, if you're talking about an XC60 and it's just to run the family around town and go on road trips, and you're not pushing the limits of handling or really care that much about dynamics, a good set of all seasons for the once or twice you drive to the mountains in the winter will probably be fine.
Yeah,
especially if you supplement with chains.
Like, I would look up on Tire Rack what the decibel rating is of the tires you have, and then make sure whatever all seasons you get are not louder than that. That's the only way I could see that going wrong. Because to me, having P0s on an XC60 is kind of unnecessary. And my dad had a Volvo V70, for 7 years, and he's driven it to Tahoe usually 4 times to 5 times a year. He has all seasons, but what he does is he has chains. So if there's a ton of snow, he'll just put chains on the all-wheel drive car that has all seasons. But for the most part, he's a good snow driver. And I know for people that are saying like winter tires are much better, they stop and turn better than all seasons. But if you need something that is kind of a down-the-middle tire, do an all season and then keep chains in the car in case it's really severe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. California is not upstate New York. If in Santa Cruz, it's not like in the winter, it's not snowing, but it's below 40 degrees, right? If it was cold a lot and wet, but not snowing, then having winter tires, you really get usefulness out of. But if you're driving in a very mild climate most of the time, and you're driving to the mountains to go skiing once or twice a year, and the roads might be clear or they might be snowy, you're probably fine with all seasons and chains as a backup.
Mm-hmm. Jack Riley asks, if we were to do a Top Gear style road trip adventure film, where would each of our dream destinations be and what would we drive? Ooh. How? Ooh. I mean, The trips they've done in Africa and in numerous countries, like I've never been there. That would be, I think, a great unfamiliar place for me to go to, because I've done a lot of driving in Europe, and it all basically feels they're all, the countries are similar, just different languages. But I think doing something like their Botswana trip or any of the things they've done down there, where you just see a completely different landscape, totally different cultures, different challenges, like something like that. And what car I would bring would depend on what the goal of the road trip is. But I have no idea. Like, do you want to make the trip easy or hard? That's the question that they always make for themselves. You know, do you want to bring a Ferrari and lift it, or do you want to just bring a Land Cruiser?
Yeah, I think I'd like to do something African in a diesel Mercedes. You know, like a 300D, because that's where those cars ended up. You know, they were sold new to fairly well-off people in Germany and France and Western Europe, and then they became taxi cabs in those countries, and then they became taxi cabs in like the Balkans, and then they became taxi cabs, you know, in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I think I'd like to drive something like that.
I mean, I could do the lifted Crown Vic thing again, but it might be nice to branch out to something else.
Yeah, it's been done.
One
or two more.
We have we have four more.
If such a thing. Okay, we'll do four more.
What do we think would make for a better off-road daily around town? A ZJ Grand Cherokee or a 90s 4Runner? ZJs can be found for about half the price.
Which one is ZJ?
I'm looking that up. Have you been in Musto's white Jeep? Basically, the 90s, 93, 95.
Yeah, okay. The rounded one.
The rounded one.
Yeah.
That car drives so much better than any 4Runner I've been in, including new 4Runners. It rides quieter. It drives great. Yeah, those things are hidden gems, and they're also really good off road and pretty stout if the transmission's been repaired.
The materials on the interior aren't great, but otherwise, especially if you get one with cloth, it'll be all right. Yeah. Those drive all right on the road. Yeah, they're cool.
Let's see. AJ adopted his first cat in December.
Oh, congratulations.
Things are great, but the last couple of months she's gotten to eating stuff around the house. She ate 6 shirts, 4 pairs of shorts, a blanket, and other fabric. She's 9 months old. Vet says it's normal and will last 6 more months. Do you have any experience with this? And if so, any tips to stop her eating things at the house? She has plenty of toys. That's very funny.
Well, that's weird. They have some like sprays that you can spray on stuff. Like I wouldn't spray it on your clothes, but this never really happened with any of my cats. I never had cats that chewed on stuff. I've had cats that scratch things, like scratch furniture. They would use furniture as a scratching pad, and my solution for that was to get a lot more scratching posts. My house has scratching posts, multiple scratching posts in every single room of the house, and it's still not a perfect system. But that did help. I don't know about chewing on stuff. There's definitely coatings you can put on furniture and cords and things like that taste really gross, that might train them to not to stop eating things that aren't food. I don't really have a solution to that one. I would ask Jackson Galaxy. Jackson Galaxy probably has an FAQ somewhere about your cats chewing on and eating stuff that isn't food. But I've never seen that one. I hope your cat's happy, though.
Last two. Thomas Harrison Lord says, Volvo announced it will stop selling all sedans and wagons in the UK with immediate effect. Without a single wagon in the lineup, do you think Volvo will lose its Volvo-ness? And combining that with the switch to EVs, am I the only one confused as to why Geely would want both Polestar and Volvo if they all make electric crossovers?
Well, I'll do the second part first. As time moves on, Polestar will look less and less like Volvo. The first Polestar cars were clearly Volvo-based cars, but we saw a couple of the concepts for the new cars at Goodwood
They look so good.
They're their own cars. They're
Yeah.
not Volvos anymore. They might share some switch gear and shit with Volvo, but it's going to be a separate brand. I mean, that's sort of like saying, you know, GM has Cadillac. Why would they have GMC?
Bingo.
Still, but they still do. I mean, will Volvo lose some of its Volvo-ness without wagons? Like, sure, but like, were you buying every wagon they make? Like, you know, it's our people. If people were buying Volvo wagons off the fucking hook, like, that wouldn't be a thing.
We saw a lot of wagons in England. I was shocked when we looked at, the parking lot in our hotel was fairly full. And also at the Lotus factory, majority of five-door things, it seemed like 80% of them were wagons, not crossovers. But it seems like outside of those communities, maybe there are a lot more crossover selling. But look, we're watching the evolution of the car industry in real time, as anyone has before us, and things are just going to change, and that's how it is. So, like, how we identify one car company, it may lose that particular identity in our eyes, but their business is to sell cars. I mean, that's what it's always been. It's just for a while, wagons sold. And last one, Flannel Bob.
I like a wagon, but and we had a Volvo wagon. Like, Hannah loved her Volvo V70 R design wagon. And we're seriously looking at another Volvo to replace our Mach-E, but we're not looking at a wagon. We're looking at a crossover, an XC60. XC60? No, is it?
Yeah, that's the one you like.
What is it?
The Recharge.
XC60 Recharge, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're probably looking at that car for the same reason a lot of other people are, which is if they live in certain areas, the air suspension and the ride quality is better than the Volvo, than the wagon was. I like the load height with the tailgate better. I like the height of getting in and out of it better. I don't have to get as low. The handling is still more than sufficient for the needs of us who really drive around urban areas and on freeways, and the incremental improvement in dynamics doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flannel Bob asks, how would we put into words the difference between, quote, motoring and driving? And if you had a two-car garage based upon these differences, which cars would you choose?
You want to go first? I mean, motoring to me is a fun car on a fun journey. Driving is, I'm going to work, I'm going to school, going to the store. And there can certainly be, motoring is a subset of driving, obviously. Driving is all of it. And within the big circle of driving, you've got commuting, you've got errands, and you've got motoring. And motoring is the good part. It's the good roads, the scenic drive, the nice day, the nice car. Going where you want to go at a time you want to go there with people you want to be going with.
I think it's
right?
I think it's just a very subjective question, because to me, I look at the word driving and I can easily make it into I'm going driving in the canyons, or I'm going for a drive, and there's intent behind that. But of course, the word is broad enough to cover commuting and all the other things you said. And motoring to me just seems like an old term, so I associate it with scenic drive, but in something old, classic, softer, like the Morgan or an old, Hot Rod or Bel Air or something like that, where it's not all out performance driving. It's more about Convertible, smell the seasons as I pass along the road. So I think that's a really hard thing to define because the terms are so broad.
Yeah. Great. Best cars for motoring should be a car where you're connected to the machine somehow. I like running around LA in my electric car because that's not good driving. That's light to light, bumpy roads, stop and go, lots of people, it's hot out, and getting in and out of the car a million times, loading shit in the back. That's driving. Motoring is when I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right when the sun comes up. I get in a great car, and I go drive up a mountain somewhere. That's motoring.
All right.
That was it.
That's the game.
That's the show, folks. All right. I am going to San Diego this weekend because there's a paddle out for my late brother-in-law, John, which reminds me, we will be doing the giveaway for that prototype version of the Notice Canyon watch, the one-of-one prototype. And one of the things I'm going to talk about with the guys is how you can win that. I think the easiest way will be that we'll set up an email address, something like, I don't know, something at thesmokingtire.com, and you will have to send in either a screenshot of your entry into the Be the Match program, which is age limited to 45. So if you're over 45, you won't be able to sign up for Be the Match. In that case, you'll need to send in a photo or a proof that you have donated blood or platelets. Those are the two ways that you'll be able to win. You won't be able to buy an entry. Nobody will just get an entry for being a patron and everything. I'm talking about giving away a literal one-of-a-kind watch prototype, and the only way to do it is going to be to sign up for Be the Match, so to be a bone marrow stem cell donor for folks who need it with cancer, or to give blood or stem cells. And I'll have more details on how to do that. And then we'll probably announce how to do it later this month, and we'll probably announce the winner in December when the production notice watches get delivered. I want to have some time for that. We'll be back on Monday. You know who's coming on the podcast on Monday? Joey Lawrence, the actor Joey Lawrence. I randomly got a text from Bert Kreischer, who was like, you know who fucking loves cars and loves watches? Joey fucking Lawrence. And he was on the text. And I was like, the actor? And he was like, yeah, man, set it up. And so I did. So Joey's coming into the studio, and we'll talk about cars with Joey Lawrence. See what the fuck he's about. That'll be interesting. Also, I'll be on PKA podcast next week. I know a lot of people like when we do PKA with them boys. So I'll be on that one next week. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.